There's an interesting paper that just came out. I can't remember if it was published in Nature. I think it was published in Nature. And it was interesting is to take a look at like small amounts of even raw plants as a hormetic stressor, even for our gut. And it lends itself to thinking like, okay, large copious amounts of these vegetables maybe aren't the trick, especially in a raw form. But small amounts actually, incrementally build some resilience because it is a stressor. And we are acknowledging that there are toxins and plant toxins. Yeah. That's a thing. That is a real thing. That's not made up. But it doesn't mean that humans weren't made to occasionally consume them. And I have a theory, and I'll share this theory. I'm curious your thoughts on it, and then we'll wrap up because this is very, and again, full disclaimer, it's pure theory. We start to see, like, our society today, if I want a vegetable from Russia, I can get a vegetable from Russia. If I want a plant from Australia, I can eat a plant from Australia. 10,000 years ago, obviously that wasn't a thing. That wasn't doable. We've had a huge, hockey stick in our IQ in the last couple of hundred years, as industrial revolution and everything, and the ability to get foods from other corners of the earth. I am a believer that perhaps that diversity of the microbiome that's come as a result of us being able to eat outside of just our immediate ecosystem is something that's very important. And sometimes if you have a myopic view where you say, well, humans aren't supposed to consume that, or well, maybe in small amounts, just like these little stressors we get from exercise or stressors we get from fasting, maybe in small amounts, appropriately dosed amounts, they can actually make us better, smarter humans. And again, pure theory, but I'm curious your take on that. You can shoot it down all the way.
No, microdosing vegetables, okay.
Well, no, microdosing, not just vegetables, but things that might be considered bad by...
But I popped a link down below for my favorite macadamia nuts from a company called House of Macadamias. Seriously the best, okay? Their onion flavor is unbelievable, but they also have macadamia nut bars that the first ingredient is literally macadamia nuts. So you're talking a bar that is predominantly macadamia nuts, and it tastes like a candy bar. It's sweetened with, it doesn't have any sugar in it at all, so you're not gonna have this crazy insulin spike, and you can get good, healthy calories in, keep your calories where they need to be, while maintaining insulin sensitivity potentially. Okay, so I popped a link down below that'll save you 20% off whatever you want from House of Macadamia, whether it's straight up macadamia nuts, whether it's the macadamia nut bars, whether it's their revolutionary new macadamia nut oil.
They're also giving anyone that makes a purchase through my link a free 20-ounce bottle of cold-pressed macadamia nut oil. So literally getting a full bottle of macadamia nut oil with any purchase when you use that 20% off discount link.
I think an example would be like habanero peppers, right?
Perfect.
They're clearly, there's something going on there where they don't want to be eaten, but we choose to put them on food as a spice. So I think to your point, a lot of spices, for instance, have some medicinal properties. Cinnamon's been known for years as a blood sugar sort of controlling spice. So if you look at spices, which by their very nature are very specific in how tart and powerful the taste sensation is from what they are, versus like Bib lettuce or white lettuce, which is has no real taste profile or sensation to it. I don't know how to respond to that theory, because I would also say that until 1,000 years ago, populations stayed in one area and only ate the vegetation around that one area. They didn't, 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago or 200 years ago, you couldn't get leeks from Russia, or you couldn't get emu eggs from Australia. So the local microbiome, the local gut profile of everybody in one area might have been very homogeneous. They might have had the same sort of microbiome as based on the similarity of the diet based on the region. Now, what happens when you introduce, new stuff, foreign stuff? I know that we should probably go into a whole different microbiome talk, but my microbiome will shift if I decide for some period of time I want to start eating legumes a little bit more, hummus and maybe some black beans with salsa or something like that. And if I eat a couple of those over a course of a day, the microbiome changes. It literally changes. So is there even an ideal microbiome for you? And for me, I don't think there is. I think the microbiome is there to shift in accordance with what you're choosing to eat versus, you having to feed your microbiome because that's your microbiome. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we see just in the research the regression always comes back to diversity is best.
Yeah.
Not because, well, and there's an interesting paper, and I'm full of this repository of useless information, but it's demonstrated that, okay, diversity is good, but then when you start looking at people that are living over 100, they start finding that the diversity is not as important. What becomes important is the bioindividuality. And the way that they've kind of looked at that is they basically established that, okay, when they're younger, in their 70s, diversity becomes important, but as they start getting into their 90s, they realize the people that live the longest aren't the people with the most diverse. They're the people with the most almost very stable and
consistent.
Predictable for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of people over 100. I think I only know 2 people. But the point is that it's interesting is that they actually do kind of eat the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And they do the same kind of routine. Now, maybe there's something.
Yeah, so here's a question. Is that what they're eating every day, or the routine, the actual act of doing a routine every day that happens to include the same foods?
Well, and you look at the routine, but also even with exercise, like the one species, Veillonella, which is very interesting, and you as an endurance guy you find it interesting. I mean, they take a look at ultramarathon runners, and they find they have these high amounts of Veillonella, a specific kind of butyrate-producing bacteria that feeds on lactic acid, feeds on lactate. And so it's very interesting. So perhaps it's this inverse relationship, and we have it all kind of backwards, where we're not trying to support our microbiome, but our microbiome is sort of supporting our lifestyle. And that's, again, topic for another day. But coming back to this whole thing, kind of round trip here, it's pretty basic. It's living close to the earth, and not having these hyperpalatable things.